a new report released that says that doctors had warned that the Nottingham attacker, Valdo Calocane, could have killed someone 3 years before he went on a rampage last June. Well, let's join now Grace O Malley-Kumar's mother and father, Dr Sanjoy Kumar, and his wife, Dr Sinead. Thank you both so much for your time this morning. Lots of things to get through with you both, but first of all, how are you both?
Pretty devastated after reading all the reports and seeing the Panorama programme yesterday, I must say.
So the Panorama programme was on the BBC, the report from the CQC. Let's just, with regards to the Panorama programme, what was your thoughts and feelings after that? That was half an hour last night, looking at the situation with regards to Valdo and his family.
Well, Gareth, Sinead and I have a lot of respect for investigative journalists. They have uncovered so much in our case, far more than the police have at times. The thing that, disappointed us really was the scope of the programme and some very important points. The programme started out by telling us about Valdo Calocane's background. It stated the first line was that his father was a builder, but what Navtej Johal failed to tell the whole country, the whole nation, is that Valdo Calocane's mother is a registered nurse, still registered with the Nursing and Midwifery Council. When there was a notion that they didn't know about his diagnosis in 2020, find that very hard, because in 2020 the symptoms were discussed with them, and they are all the symptoms of paranoid schizophrenia. On top of that, really, I think Navtej should have explored when a young lady jumped out of a first floor window, fractured her spine, injured herself to that extent. Why did the police not charge Valdo Calocane? There was an insinuation that people didn't want to press charges. But if an injury as serious as a fractured spine is not in the public interest for the police to charge, then what is? So some very tough questions that could have been asked by Panorama's team for the public interest were not asked. Things about toxicology, which is something that we have also asked, something about drug taking by Calocane, that was not explored amongst his peers, his friends, people he met within 24 hours of the killings. Panorama is a programme with teeth normally, and yesterday we found it sensationalistic, and it didn't really explore some of the hard questions that we had been asking for.
To what degree did the programme, did the reporter, did the BBC interact with you before its broadcast, and was there any opportunity to contribute to it?
No, the Panorama did not contact us. They notified us about the programme's planning to air, but we were never asked for any comment, input or any questions whatsoever. We had no contribution or a chance to contribute. On the contrary, we weren't engaged at all.
And in fact, I believe if they had, I think the programme would have been far more useful, Gareth, for the public.
So you effectively had a letter or an email saying this is what we plan to do and this is how we're going to do it?
And that was pretty much the end of it.
We had an email notifying us that it was going to go to air, and it was regarding and basically looking at NHS, and that some of the people who had never been interviewed before were going to be interviewed, including the family.
Now, obviously, the Panorama documentary came out last night. Today, reading the CQC report into the situation with regards to the care and failings of care. What are your thoughts and views on what you've been reading?
Gareth, first and foremost, I've got to say, if I was Lord Justice Turner today, who conducted our hearing, because of course we were denied a trial, the whole idea of drug-resistant schizophrenia was bandied about, and much was done about it, and that actually directed the course of our trial. The CQC confirmed emphatically that there was no such thing. There was no such thing as drug-resistant schizophrenia. The point was that the patient resisted taking his medication, and his condition waxed and waned. When someone does that, they're fully culpable. The example that I have made is if someone doesn't take their blood pressure medication, they'll expect a heart attack. They expect things to happen. In the same way, Calocane was not drug resistant. He simply did not take his drugs. The risk assessments in his case were really poor by treating consultants. And he was sectioned 4 times There were 4 opportunities to change his medication, change it to depot medication, which is injectable, which means that the patient complies. There were no community treatment orders put in place so that he would take his medication in the community. We had a simple case of a culpable person who just did not take his medication. All of this is devastating to read. It was so basic. The errors were not technical. They were basic errors and repeated 4 times over. There were so many chances to change the course of Calocane, but none of those opportunities were taken by any of the doctors. And lastly, the doctor who actually discharged him. That was the most irresponsible thing to do, knowing that a doctor initially, the one thing we did not know is that a doctor had put in the notes that he had the potential to murder someone. Even meeting the trust, Ifti Majid, who's the chief executive, did not discuss that with us. They weren't transparent and actually they did not tell us that this person had the potential for murder. Even now, things are being kept from us.
The CQC report clearly also says that basically there was no doubt that Valdo Calocane was going to relapse, given his non-compliance with his medication and lack of engagement. And ultimately, statistics show that if there's a decent, or at least even a basic standard of delivery of care, homicide does not occur.
The hope with reports like these, as they bring about change, that they bring about improvement, that things through such terrible circumstances do eventually get better. How hopeful are you that change will be brought about?
Well, Gareth, Wes Streeting, Secretary of State for Health, has promised us that he's going to slow down the modifications to the Mental Health Act. He has promised that we will be able to work with people who are working with the law. A change is needed. We need to step back a little bit and we need to see what is safe for the public. We have lost the absolute love of our life, our lovely, beautiful and brave daughter, Gracie. And at the end of the day, what we want to see is that the public are safe. I think the nation, as you know now, are crying out for safety from these crimes. You reported just before our item a stabbing. I really wonder if that was also related to mental health. At the end of the day, we want to get the Mental Health Act right. It's not about depriving people of their liberty. It's about just getting it right. It's about holding clinicians responsible who put people like that out on our streets. Any psychiatrist who puts out a dangerous person on our streets has to be held responsible for putting that patient out if he has not done a comprehensive risk assessment, which was another flaw that the CQC actually brought out in our case, that risk assessments were not done correctly, were not done fully. And these must be done under the law when the Mental Health Act is fully modified and completed. And we really hope to be working collaboratively with Wes Streeting, who certainly has the will and the intention to get this right.
You mentioned there the Health Secretary. You've learned that a public inquiry will be forthcoming. What more insight have you been given with regards to that?
Well, at the moment, we would like the terms of reference to cover a wide spectrum of all of the failings, because there were so many failings. There were failings not just by the Mental Health Trust. There were failings by Nottinghamshire Police. There were immense failings by Leicestershire Police. There were failings within the council. There were failings by so many organisations and then individuals. All of this needs to be brought together under a terms of reference that covers a public inquiry so that things get better for everyone. Every victim today in England who has suffered the way we have, we want justice for them. We want the law changed for them. We fight in their name. We really want to change things for the better so that no other family ever fears for their child getting on a school bus, going to school, going to college, and being away from their family.
You talk there about change. Sinead, you've started the Grace O Malley-Kumar Foundation. Talk to us about that and what you're aiming to achieve.
Well, the Grace O Malley-Kumar Foundation was initially set up by Grace's brother James, her younger brother and best friend. It's a small way that we can try and keep Grace's legacy alive. Grace was an incredibly empathic, kind young lady. She was really, she was too good to be true. She was a sporty girl. She was a very bright girl. She was studying medicine and was going to become a doctor. But apart from that, she also was incredibly loyal to her friends, and she always called out bullying or people who would isolate or socially engineer friendships. So basically, it's going to hopefully be used for initiatives to encourage friendships and to encourage perhaps what we've terminized as grace groups within schools, universities and institutions to encourage empathy, but also it will go to hopefully grassroots sport to support sports, because sport was a great part of Grace's life. She was an England hockey player, and we'll be hoping to support initiatives like that.
Really appreciate you both making time for us today. Dr Sinead O Malley-Kumar, Dr Sanjoy Kumar, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having us, Gareth.
Good morning.
We did hear there during some of that conversation some criticism of the BBC's Panorama programme. Well, a BBC spokesperson has said, I quote, "We have the deepest sympathy for the families, and the Panorama team has been extremely mindful of the sensitivities in handling this programme. They've been in contact with the bereaved families to tell them about the programme and provide an outline of its editorial focus." The BBC statement went on to say the investigation asks whether there were systemic failings and missed opportunities in Valdo Calocane's interactions with mental health services in the 3 years leading up to the terrible events in Nottingham last year.